Well, welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining us from Hy-Vee all across Madison area because she goes to all of them. It's Andrea Miller, our dietitian. And I say ours because she's helped us out for a long time. And as anything goes, so do you. You're leaving us. It's not fair, but I'm very excited for you. Andrea, welcome back to the show. Maybe we should let you say hi first, but then we can talk about how sad we're gonna miss you having you on our show.
Hello, and thank you. I will miss you guys as well.
You've been such great help, and we've done so many fun segments. It's going to be hard to replace you on this, but we just can't thank you enough for all your help, and we'll save that for the end here on thanking you. I said I wouldn't tear up, so we'll keep it going. In today's segment, before we get to the waterworks, we'll talk about cranberries, and a perfect time of year. We just came out of Thanksgiving and heading in the holiday season. It's the best time. Wisconsin is the cranberry capital of the world, so we got that going for us. But let's learn a little bit about the cranberry, because you could probably work this into your diet a little bit. I'm just suspecting, because Andrew wouldn't bring it here if we couldn't find a good way for it. But tell us a little bit about the cranberry itself.
Yes, so it's a gorgeous fruit to start, and our state fruit, which is even better. But there's a lot of different characteristics and nutritional benefits of cranberries. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and things to consider when you're incorporating cranberries into your recipes or when you eat them. So first, they're the most related to the blueberry. So if you can kind of picture how a blueberry, like the texture and kind of woodiness a little bit to a blueberry, that's what cranberries are most like. They are even a little bit more tart, and kind of, some people might describe them as crisp or not sweet, depending on their taste buds. But they have a very crisp, almost woody texture to them. So that's something to consider. And then of course, their bright color. So it's very attractive to include cranberries into dishes, but we also get a lot of nutritional benefits from that bright color. So that's what we can talk a little bit more about.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're right on the texture. It's definitely, blueberry pops per se. This doesn't necessarily pop, but and then the flavor too. It really depends how you prep it, and we'll get to that. But I love like the dried cranberries. Those are my favorite.
Yeah. So they're certainly not juicy. You wouldn't describe them as juicy like a grape. But as far as nutritional benefits, a lot of it is coming from that bright color. A lot of the nutritional benefits come from the antioxidants we get from cranberries. So we've talked about antioxidants before. They're in a lot of different fruits and vegetables. Their main role is to prevent damaged cells from being vulnerable. So our cells get broken down on a minute by minute daily basis. Okay. Antioxidants kind of fill themselves in, they give themselves up to replenish, if you think of it that way, that damaged cell. So it's not vulnerable to diseases like heart disease, diabetes. Those are kind of the serious ones, but also wrinkles. Wrinkles are a result of oxidation or cells breaking down. So antioxidants kind of fill themselves in, give themselves up to keep that cell nice and whole and healthy.
That's interesting. And there's other things that for prevention and protection that I see here, and ulcers. That's interesting.
Yeah. So they're not really used as treatment. Of course, it's a lot of things. So preventing ulcers is one. The good health of our urinary tract. You hear them kind of connected with urinary tract infections, but really they help prevent and kind of keep a nice, that system running smoothly. And then they have an antimicrobial effect, which sounds kind of interesting, but what that basically means is they make a very inhospitable environment for things like bacteria and viruses. That's what antimicrobial means in terms of food. And so they make it so viruses and bacteria don't want to hang out there, which is a good thing. And so they have kind of that effect on our system as well.
All right. Well, we've kind of got the benefits, if you will, of it. I think the next piece is you're thinking of the eating part of this and a healthy snack or something. But cranberries and sugar, where does that fall?
Yeah, great question. So you are going to see sugar connected a lot with cranberries. And even professionally speaking, I think that's okay. Having sugar added to cranberries doesn't take away the nutritional benefits that we get from the cranberries, if you think of it that way. Okay. That's like saying if you add salt to broccoli, that doesn't take away the nutritional benefits from broccoli just by adding some salt, right? So of course you want to consider the added sugar and what that means to you, but know that we don't usually drink straight cranberry juice, or we're not going to pop cranberries like we would grapes. Okay. So they will make the cranberries more palatable. And so the other thing to note is that in some cases, adding sugar to cranberries even keeps them at the same level as other fruits naturally. So
Interesting.
Something to kind of take into consideration. It's not necessarily making them higher in sugar or carbohydrates than other fruit, even with added sugar. It's because their baseline sugar level is so low.
Well, that makes it guilty free. No, I'm just kidding. All I just heard is that's a green light to eat more cranberries, no matter what form or shape they take in. So as we're looking and buying for cranberries, I can't honestly tell you, Andrew, that I've ever bought a fresh cranberry before. So this is totally out there. So I'm kind of excited to learn a little bit about this, because I am looking for cooking the ultimate meal this year. So tell us about looking and finding them, the season, that sort of thing.
Right. Yes. Well, this is the year, I think, for you, the year of the fresh cranberry for you. So
I'm wearing red. I mean, come on, we're ready.
We're right in peak season for purchasing them fresh in the produce department. So you'll find them in the produce department in nice little mesh bag. That's kind of our local ones, come in mesh bags. You'll also see some ocean spray varieties that come in a plastic bag with air holes in them. You want to look for cranberries. They should be nice and firm and to the touch, which is unusual because that's not usually how we buy other fruits.
Right.
But we want them soft. So you want them nice and firm to the touch. They should look really nice and plump and kind of pearly. And you'll find them between September and December. So we're right in that sweet spot. You can still pick your fresh ones up. They do last quite a while too. I think I've had a package of remaining kind of in my fridge for the last like 3 weeks, and I can still use them easily.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's one thing to consider. And then when you're cooking them or thinking of how to incorporate them into recipes, we often think of baked goods, right? Muffins or cobblers or different things like that. But also they work really great in savory dishes. So I provided a few recipes for you guys that link directly to our website, but there's a great one where you incorporate into a stuffing for acorn squash. You get a nice sweet and tart at the same time. There's a one where you can create a butter using fresh cranberries that you kind of grind up and mix with orange zest, which is delicious. And one of my favorites is actually the cranberry jalapeno salsa that we have on the website. And so that you get a nice tartness, but also a little heat from the jalapeno. And you can have it as kind of like a side to a meat, like turkey or pork for a chutney, or you can dip it with chips, or I like to do a cracker with like a cream cheese spread and then put that jalapeno salsa on top. That's a great combo.
Yeah, if you couldn't have paid me to tell you that there was a jalapeno salsa out there with a cranberry base. Like that is, but as I'm looking here at some of the images, oh my gosh, it looks really tasty.
Yeah. So
you're going to notice.
Oh, I'm sorry. For some recipes, I was just going to note, you're going to notice that you might just grind them up raw, like with the salsa, you don't cook it, you just grind it up in a food processor. And some of them, like with the stuffing for the acorn squash, you kind of cook it on the stove so they pop and burst. So you're going to notice you use cranberries a little bit differently depending on the recipe.
Yeah, that's interesting. Again, I would have never, thinking of buying them fresh again, just it doesn't work. I only know it in the can and taking the can, dumping it out on the plate, and there's the canned canned cranberry. Talk quickly on that turkey wrap too. That turkey wrap looks interesting. Is that well, I'll let you take over on that one. What's that one?
So that's a great one to use for leftover turkey, and if you have leftover cranberry sauce. And by the way, homemade cranberry sauce, nothing against the stuff in the can, but homemade cranberry sauce is super easy. So if you want to take a crack at it, it's super easy. It'll make you feel very, holiday-ish when you make it. But those turkey wraps are using leftover turkey, some greens and leftover cranberry sauce, and then a little bit of spread, and then you just roll those up or wrap those up. So those are a great holiday dish to have after the holidays, like for an appetizer, or even to bring in your lunch the next week.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that with one, because that's exactly what happens, because it gets passed around, but maybe not be everybody's first choice. So trying to figure out how to incorporate it into something else. And then quickly for the snacking of them, and if you're considering buying that snack, certainly you see the dried cranberries out there or a mix of it. But as far as finding and buying those, or even making your own mix, because there's a lot of people that mix a lot of and make their own, I don't know what you want to call it, trail mixes and that sort of thing. You have any recommendations on that front?
Yeah, so you're going to see them, most, if not all, dried cranberries are going to have sugar in them. Okay, so again, I wouldn't be too scared off by that, because they're still going to be about the same as other dried fruit. The big thing to remember for dried fruit, it's not necessarily higher in sugar, it's just more concentrated because there's no water there, right? So about a quarter cup dried fruit is about equal to a cup total of something fresh, like grapes or berries or things like that. So kind of keep the amount, you wouldn't eat the same amount of dried something as you would fresh. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing I like to mention is when we're cooking with cranberries and sugar, kind of start at the lower end of what the recipe calls for, because when you're cooking, you can always add more sugar to it, but you might prefer a little bit more of that tart taste. And so you can't take the sugar out, added in. Baking, just kind of go with it. It's gonna work out. It's kind of part of the process with baking. But with cooking, take it a little bit at a time, even a third of what the recipe calls for. Add more as you taste it, and you might need it.
Interesting. That's a good tip. Well, Andrea, if people want to learn more about this, where can they find some information on cranberries?
Yeah, so I have the links that go directly to the recipes we're highlighting. Plus, we have our full recipe database on Hy-Vee.com under recipes and ideas. And then the other great resource is our Wisconsin State Cranberry Growers Association. It's kind of a mouthful, but we can include that link as well. They have a lot of information about harvesting and the growing and the industry in our state, as well as some additional recipes as well.
All right, Andrea, thank you so much. I think we've got some good ideas for the holiday season. And hey, folks, if it doesn't work out, put them in a ball in their decoration.
That's right. Stick a candle in there and you're good.
Exactly. That's probably not recommended by the dietitian, but that's my 2 cents. Now, it sounds pretty easy. Andrea, thank you again for the last couple of years. You have been a godsend of the show, and we appreciate all your tips. Good luck to you in the future, and you have an open invitation no matter where you go to come back and visit us here on Talking Fitchburg.
Thanks so much.
You bet. To Andrea Miller, Hy-Vee dietitian, and we wish her the best of luck in the future, and we hope to have a continued relationship with Hy-Vee and getting out information dietitian. If not, we're just going to have to hire her, and I'll just put it in my budget for next year. So, all right, we'll take a quick break. More to come. You are watching Talking Fitchburg.